Pretty sure Johnny Parlay got blown up out
Sucks.
for him.
Welcome to the Steel City. Is everybody ready to go? Let's proclaim the greatest radio show.
Welcome, fans, to our Week 16 Fantasy Wrap-Up. I'm your host, Jim Sella, in studio with Fantasy Extraordinaire J Dash / he really wants to be done with these fantasy segments.
Please believe.
Love it.
Well, to those of you who won your championships this week, congratulations. To those of you who lost their championship this week, sucks to be you.
Please believe.
For those of you who have a championship next week, we got your back.
All day long. Or really, actually, only for a few hours a week.
Let's go to quarterbacks here.
All right.
Start with Colin Kaepernick.
No, can we start with the guy who screwed Johnny Parlay, or would that throw you off too bad?
Well, who is this?
Andrew Luck.
Oh, Andrew Luck.
He screwed Parlay hard today by not showing up for that game versus the Cowboys, and then he got pulled out of the game, so he couldn't even get the garbage time points to save him. I bet you he was furious when he was watching it.
How about this? There is one quarterback who scored less points than Andrew Luck. Can you guess who that is?
Bubby Hoyer? No, Johnny Manziel.
Yep.
Johnny Manziel has a collective 3 points in the amount of time he's been playing in the NFL. Garbage.
Yeah.
Hashtag garbage.
You're going to want to stay away from Johnny Manziel next week again.
They need to put the word football in quotes in his nickname because he's not really a football player.
Now, Andrew Luck, on the other hand, I would go back to him next week for sure. He has Tennessee next week. It's in Tennessee, and we know this is one of the worst teams offensively and defensively in the NFL.
Don't tell Parlay that, because if he finds that out, he's going to be mad.
Yeah, well, Andrew Luck wasn't very good last week either, if you remember.
Yeah, almost cost him that game. Andrew Luck's been, I don't want to call it slumping because he's still putting up mad yards, but I think he's pressing a little bit, knowing that nobody else on the offense is really showing up for the Colts. T.Y. Hilton's been hurt. Reggie Wayne's been hurt. Daniel Heron's been all right, but Trent Richardson is just complete garbage, and I'm looking for him to be released in the offseason.
Who else had a terrible week, a huge letdown? Matt Stafford. He had 243 yards, which isn't terrible. No touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
That offense hasn't been on track all year long.
Well, listen, he went into Chicago, though, who's one of the worst defenses in the league. He just had 390 yards and 2 touchdowns against them in Week 13. What happened to him?
I don't know. He's kind of lost it this year, even with Calvin Johnson in the lineup. Golden Tate, Reggie Bush, the Imposter Bell, Pettigrew, Ebron, the other tight end. They're stacked on offense, and they do not understand how to put points on the board.
He goes in the Green Bay next week, which seems like a pretty good game for him because you'd think, hey, they're going to have to pass a lot in that game. But in Week 3, he had 246 yards and no touchdowns and 2 picks against Green Bay. He scored 6 fantasy points.
And that was the home game, right, for Detroit?
That was the home game, yeah.
He struggles in Green Bay as it is. The Lions historically have struggled at Lambeau Field. So I don't really look to see him riding the ship next week, and I'd be weary of starting him if you're in a championship game.
Yeah, I'd try to find someone else to put in your lineup next week if you've been relying on Matt Stafford recently.
Trade for Ryan Lindley. That was sarcasm if you couldn't tell.
Oh, I could tell. RG3, like we said,
garbage. Is RG garbage?
Yeah, he didn't do it like he did the week before. As for next week, RG3 goes up against Dallas. I'm going to stay away from him, too, for sure.
Believe that.
Bubby Hoyer's back in.
Why not? Johnny Garbage can't play football, so we all figured that out, even though I've been saying it forever.
Well, he has a great matchup next week at Baltimore. We know Baltimore sucks against the pass.
I think I know what happened. I think Manziel was watching film of himself doing the money sign in college so that he could remember how to do it because, he hasn't played for much of the year. So then instead of watching game film, he was just watching old game film from college doing his little stupid dance he does, and that's why he sucks.
So would you start Hoyer next week if you're down to slim options? At Baltimore, he had 290 yards and a touchdown against them back in Week 3.
Hoyer's playing for a contract, really, because he's not coming back with Cleveland next year. He's an unrestricted free agent. Johnny Manziel is going to be the starter. They didn't invest a first-round pick in him for no reason. This game doesn't really mean anything for Cleveland, but it can knock Baltimore out of the playoffs, maybe, depending on some other games that come up. So you know Cleveland wants to play the role of spoiler, and you know Hoyer wants a big contract. So he's going to go out there and hopefully, give it his all, and he really could put up huge points. Baltimore's pass defense is terrible.
Tom Brady had a bad day too, just 1 touchdown, 182 yards passing. He goes up against Buffalo next week. He had 4 touchdowns against them earlier in the year, and you're definitely going to have to start Tom Brady.
Is it really a bad day when you get to go home and sleep with Giselle?
True. Same with Big Ben. Finally a down game for Big Ben.
Yeah, and
in
his
terms
wife's
of
not
fantasy.
nearly as hot.
Please
she's
believe.
hot, but she's not that hot.
He has a tough matchup next week, Cincinnati, but last time he played him, 350 yards and 3 touchdowns. So I'm going to go back to Big Ben.
He needs, a shade under 370 to make 5,000 for the year?
Yeah, that's a huge number, especially for Ben. We never thought that.
Bradshaw threw for 3,000 maybe once or twice.
Drew Brees only had 1 touchdown this week, but he goes into Tampa next week. Again, he's one of those guys you're just going to have to start. You have to trust these top-end quarterbacks.
The Saints' offense has been all messed up all year long. They suck at home all of a sudden. Nobody can really figure that out.
5 straight losses.
Yeah. I would play Brees if I had him because there's not too many players that you could say are better than Drew Brees, but I'd be scared to death as I was doing it.
Jimmy Santa Clausen had just 181 yards, but he did throw for 2 touchdowns. But he has a tough matchup next week at Minnesota.
I love Jimmy Santa Claus.
But yeah, they
He's
played
ugly,
Detroit this week.
He
2
plays
touchdowns.
terrible, but he loves Santa Claus.
I don't know. I'm not going to trust it, but he could have a decent week next week since he did pretty well against Detroit this week. Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to trust next week. Matt Ryan, I'm definitely going to trust next week. Teddy Bridgewater had a big game, 18 points.
Well, his nickname ain't Big Game Bridgewater for nothing.
In some leagues, he scored over 18 points. He had another 2 touchdowns. That's 2 touchdowns in 4 of the last 5 games for him. In the one game he didn't have 2 touchdowns, he still threw for 315 yards. And he has Chicago next week. So, again, I'm going to recommend Teddy Bridgewater as one of the top sleeper quarterbacks for next week. Sean Hill, good week for him, 290 yards and 2 touchdowns at Seattle next week. I don't think we have to say it. No chance.
He's an ugly son of a gun, too.
He's no Kyle Orton.
You should see my license picture. I kind of look like Kyle Orton.
What about Cam Newton at Atlanta next week? He had 292 yards and 2 touchdowns against them in Week 11. He had 201 yards passing and a touchdown this week, but he also ran for 63 yards and scored a touchdown.
And he also has a broken back.
I don't know. He didn't look too bad this week. He's in the top 10 for quarterbacks. I really like that matchup next week. I'm thinking Cam Newton as a sleeper, even though at the beginning of the season we wouldn't have said something like that.
They probably gave him some supreme painkillers and pain injections to be able to get through that game, so he was running around like a beast. And then tomorrow he's not even going to be able to get out of bed. But who's he going up against next week?
Atlanta.
That's for the division.
I hope Carolina
when
pulls
you're
it
playing
out.
for the playoffs, yeah, anything could happen. Anybody can have a great game, and Cam's definitely a type of player to put together a great career, let alone just one good game. So it wouldn't shock me at all, honestly. It would not shock me. Other than that back injury, he was really getting healthy as the year went on. So if they can shoot him up so he doesn't feel that pain, it's not like he has a lot of the other nagging injuries holding him back. He'll be able to play well.
Mark Sanchez played well on
Fumble.
Saturday. He had 374 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's the number 6 quarterback right now, and he has a great matchup next week at New York Giants. Sean Hill just played well against the Giants. I think Mark Sanchez next week is a good play.
You think he gets harassed for walking around the streets of Philly with a headband on?
I highly doubt he walks around with that headband on.
I'd make fun of him if I seen him with that headband on.
He didn't even take this picture with that headband on.
They just photoshopped it out.
Eli Manning, we said he wasn't going to have that big of a week because St. Louis's defense is good, but he had 391 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's the second game in a row he threw for 3 touchdowns. Now he has Philly next week. That's a great matchup, but when you look back in Week 6, he only had 151 yards and no touchdowns against them. Would you expect them to have a game like that or a game like one of these last 2?
I don't know. Philly doesn't have much to play for. They got eliminated from the playoffs, right?
Yeah, Philly's done.
Philly's done.
Giants
The Giants
are done.
don't really have anything. So, okay, so you're playing for pride here. This is a good rivalry game, a good division game.
I'm liking Eli Manning this
Odell
week.
Beckham's blowing up. I just feel like I don't think anybody can really cover him at all. So if the Giants can get just a little bit of the run game going to get some play action, that opens it up for Eli to get big plays downfield. And let's face it, I don't think that Eli is the best West Coast offense quarterback. They're trying to put that offense in, making him run those short running gun pass. He's not the most accurate guy. He's not his brother. He's better at going downfield. So if you let Beckham go downfield, Eli's good at throwing the deep ball. He can put up big yards and big points.
All right, real quick. Colin Kaepernick.
Garbage.
He only had 114 yards and a touchdown, but he is the number one quarterback this week because he had 151 yards and a rushing touchdown as well. It was a 90-yard rushing touchdown, but he goes up against Arizona next week. No way I'm trusting him. Frank Gore, 158 yards and a touchdown.
So what you're telling me is San Francisco rushed for a lot of yards.
Yeah, they rushed for a ton of yards this week. But, again, Arizona, I'm not going to trust Frank Gore against Arizona considering he hasn't surpassed double digits in his previous 4 games up until this week.
The Cardinals, I don't think, have locked up the number 1 seed in the NFC yet. So they got to play hard. They got to win these games. They're not going to be able to rest anybody. They're not just going to let the other team do whatever they want. So if you got a player going up against their defense, I wouldn't trust it at all. They're stout. I don't want any part of it.
Matt Asiata, again, 2 touchdowns this game. He had 58 yards rushing. Since Jerick McKinnon went down, he's been a pretty good running back for the Vikings. Teddy Bridgewater's been playing better, which really helps for him. There's more receivers out there playing well. And he has Chicago next week. Again, I'm going to say he's a nice sleeper running back this week.
He seems to get a lot of touchdowns, but not a lot of yards.
Reggie Bush finally did something.
Did you remember where the end zone was?
He did.
It was a pitch to Johnny. Pitch to Johnny, but I'm Johnny.
He had 54 yards and a touchdown and plus 6 catches for another 44 yards. So
Holy crap. Maybe he got some last night.
So he's actually in the top 10 running backs this week. Would you trust him going?
Nope.
Not going to trust him
You
at
don't even
all.
have to finish that statement. No.
Doesn't matter who they play.
No, the answer is no. They could play the Yacht Cougars, and the answer is going to be no.
Let me say this. He goes at Green Bay. His one good game prior to this week this season, week 3, versus Green Bay, 61 yards and a touchdown.
Okay.
So, are you going to trust him?
No. I had 300 yards passing one year on Thanksgiving Day football. That doesn't mean I'm going to do it this week.
You're right. Bush is garbage. But how about his counterpart, Joik Bell? Again,
Imposter.
74 yards and a touchdown. He's gotten it done 4 weeks in a row now. He has at Green Bay next week, but he did nothing against them earlier in the year. Just had 33 yards rushing. I'm still playing Bell.
If his name's not Le'Veon, I don't want anything to do with him.
Yeah, but you're a Yinzer.
How'd my boy Eric Decker the Halls do? Garbage, I'm pretty sure.
We'll get the receivers in a little bit, and we
Jeez.
probably won't mention them for you. Alfred Morris played pretty well on Saturday. He had 83 yards rushing and a touchdown. He goes up against Dallas next week. He had 73 yards and a touchdown against them in Week 8. He hasn't been the greatest running back this year. He's been off and on, up and down, but I do like him next week.
I'm scared of anybody in Washington's offense because God knows who's going to play quarterback, God knows what plays they're going to run, and God knows what's going to even happen. That whole organization's chaos from the owner all the way down to the janitors. They don't know what they're doing.
Speaking of teams that don't know what they're doing, the Oakland Raiders, they have Latavius Murray at running back now. He had 86 yards rushing, 3 catches and 22 yards, 13 points. Not a terrible day for him. He has Denver next week. Would you play him at Denver?
So they have McFadden and MJD at like a combined $6-7 million a year, and this dude's starting.
He's the best running back out there, by far. They were just saying today he's the closest thing to Le'Veon Bell.
Disagree with that, but would I play him against Denver? Denver's, they're not what they were early in the year. They seem like they peaked maybe mid-season, and they're on a decline. They're an older team, so it seems like as the year goes on and they get a little more beat up, they just get a little more run down. And Murray's been putting up points in the games he's playing, so why not play him?
Jamal Charles got shut down by the Steelers,
Please believe.
but again. That's one of the players that you're going to be playing every week no matter what.
Unless he's playing the Steelers.
LeGarrette Blount was out this week. Jonas Gray was supposed to get some more carries. He had 6 carries, 5 yards. He did score a touchdown. There's no way I'm trusting anyone in New England's backfield at this point. If I have to play one, it's going to be Shane Vereen, even though he didn't do much either.
The only player in New England you should be playing is Gronk or Brady, unless you're in like a deep league. But if you're in a smaller league, or if you're not really worried about it, if you're in the championship, I'm sure you got some beast players. Gronk and Brady are the top flight ones. Edelman, LaFell, they're mid-range, and then the backs are hit or miss. You got to get lucky when it comes to one of the running backs.
All right, one more running back here.
Let
Thinking
him go.
of how bad Indy has looked over the past 2 weeks, especially this week, they looked horrible. Are you going to trust Boom Herron next week at Tennessee?
Well, Indy's been bad because they're high on Heron, I heard.
So you're not going to do the Heron next week then?
Nope, no Heron for me next week. It slows me down, makes me a little groggy. It's harder to do these segments. No, I do not do Heron. Daniel Boom Herron, I don't know.
At Tennessee?
Tennessee's been really, really bad. Their run defense has been really bad. I'm pretty sure they gave up, 600 yards rushing in a 3 or 4 game span at one point in the year, which is crazy. The only person in Indy's offense that I like would be Hilton and Luck, and really neither one of them are even playing well right now.
Well, Hilton was out today. He did not play. But
Yeah, he has
I'm
the
going to say
sniffles.
Heron is a nice sleeper this week because Tennessee's defense has just been so bad. He's due for a bounce back. I think Luck's due for a bounce back, and hopefully T.Y. Hilton does come back next week.
Well, I'm pretty sure I just read in an article a couple minutes ago that Indy's seeding is where it's going to be. Like, they can't change any places. They're the only team. And they may actually rest Andrew Luck, so they might rest a lot of their starters next week. So I don't even know if Heron would play. We'll have to give you an update later in the week, so you'll have to tune into our fantasy preview.
Guess who the number 1 wide receiver was so far this week?
Heath Miller?
Nope, Odell Beckham Jr.
Damn.
This guy does it every week, man. 8 catches, 148 yards, 2 touchdowns. You're going to start him, right? You're going to start this guy, no matter
He's got
what.
weird hair.
The one surprise to me is Ruben Randall is the number 2 receiver right now. He's been doing nothing in the Giants' offense recently. Preston Parker was doing better, but he got kicked out of the game today. That might have had something to do with it, but Ruben Randall was doing well from the beginning of the game. Philadelphia next week, he had 5 catches for 58 yards against them. If he can stay involved in this offense, I really like Ruben Randall as a play next week in fantasy.
Maybe...
Well, listen, over weeks 9, 10, and 11, he had 36 targets. And then after that, he had no more than 6 targets in any game. And that was this week. Whatever.
Put me to sleep with these stats. I want to see points, man. I don't care how many targets he has. I want to see him catching the ball. I want to see him getting in the end zone. I want to see him doing backflips and cartwheels and getting taunting penalties because he's actually catching it.
Well, he did most of that besides the cartwheels and backflips. He had 6 catches for 132 yards and a touchdown this week.
And no cartwheels or backflips.
I don't believe so.
Well, then he doesn't know what he's doing.
Eddie Royal had a big game. 10 catches, 94 yards, and a touchdown. Keenan Allen was out this week. If he sits out again, would you think about playing Eddie Royal? He's so up and down, and he has a tough matchup next week at KC. You've seen what they did to the Steelers' offense today.
I hear that Phillip Rivers has 2 bulging discs in his back, so that kind of scares me away from any player, well, wide receivers, I guess I'd want to say, in San Diego's offense, because Rivers, A, is obviously not going to be playing his best, and B, may not be playing at all. So I'd stay away from their wide receivers.
Turi Smith, after looking like he was garbage over the past 2 games because of the injury, he bounced back. He had 5 catches for 59 yards and 2 touchdowns. I'd definitely like him next week versus Cleveland, even though he did not play well versus Cleveland this year, but that was before he started to blow up. Now he scored 2 touchdowns in 3 different games this season. He has 10 on the season now. Versus Cleveland, I know you don't like Torrey Smith, but I'm going to say go ahead and play him.
I don't like Cleveland more than I don't like Torrey Smith, so I think he wins out in that argument. Their defense,
the only reason that
really
is because of
anymore.
Johnny Manziel, correct?
No, I've hated the Browns my whole life.
I like the Browns because of Andre Rison.
Well, I like Andre Rison, but I don't like the Browns because of Andre Rison.
Your boy Kenny Britt had a good game.
That's because I was talking mad smack on him.
You were. He had
me.
9 catches for 103 yards on 11 targets at Seattle next week. I'm not going to play him.
Boo!
You're going to play him?
No, I ain't playing Britt. I told you last week. He's done. You're dead to me, Britt. We are not friends anymore. You can unfollow me on Twitter at bet_the_spread.
First, you may want to follow him and then unfollow him.
Oh, we're already following each other. Don't you worry. It's under an alias.
How about Sammy Watkins next week at New England? He had a touchdown, bounce-back game, 75 yards. He's been pretty inconsistent over the second half of the season, though.
Sammy, I think I can dance. Watkins, I don't know. Cal Orton's been a little inconsistent. Makes it tough for wide receivers. He's been battling injuries all year. At the beginning of the year, he was my favorite rookie wide receiver coming out of the draft. Obviously, Odell Beckham has proved everybody wrong. He's just gone out and destroyed everything and everyone in his path. But Watkins is no slouch himself. He's big and strong and fast. He knows how to adjust to the ball in the air. Who's his matchup this week?
At New England.
At New England, you're going to have to put up points to keep up with them, so I'm going to play him. Orton's going to be throwing the ball all day.
I do like him next week as well, even though he's been down over the past few weeks until this week.
That's right. It's time to go up.
Marquise Colston, 5 straight games now with double digits in PPR.
And
play him again.
5 straight losses at home. Poor bastard.
Same with Greg Jennings. He keeps doing it too. He just 3 catches for 56 yards, but he scored another touchdown.
It was a sick touchdown, too. Did you see it?
I did
He
see it.
snatched it right over some dude's head.
Yeah, so I'm going to keep playing him too.
I like Greg Jennings. Put the team on his back.
Obviously, you're not going to want to play him over some elite type receiver, but if you're in a deep league and you have Greg Jennings on your bench and you don't have much else out there, I would trust Greg Jennings next week.
Yeah, if you're not Johnny Parlay in an 8-man league where everybody's a Pro Bowler on your team and you actually got to scrounge for somebody, broken leg, he'll score a touchdown. He don't care. Put the team on his back, though.
Marquez Wilson had 10 targets from Jimmy Clausen this week, 7 catches, 66 yards. He's starting opposite of Elshon Jeffrey now because Brandon Marshall's out for the season. At Minnesota next week is a pretty tough matchup. They've been a pretty good defense recently, but I still like Marquez Wilson as a sleeper wide receiver next week, too.
It only scares me because you don't know what's going on with the quarterback position. You don't
It's
know.
Santa Clausen, though, man.
Well, you don't know that for sure. You know, something could happen. It always seems like these backups come in and they play 1 or 2 games or 1 game or 1 quarter, or they pull a Manziel and get
So
hurt
you're
in their
saying
second
Jake
game.
Cutler's going to start next week?
No, I'm just saying that it's very up in the air. You don't know. And if there's uncertainty, then I don't want to risk my fantasy championship on uncertainty.
If they don't start Santa Clausen next week, it's a travesty.
Well, if they don't start Jimmy Santa Claus, and it's like a Christmas nightmare. That's definitely a black mark against Santa, and whoever doesn't start him is going to get a lump of coal in their stocking.
Marquise Lee has been pretty decent over the past 4 weeks. 3 double-digit fantasy performances at Houston this week. They shut down Joe Flacco pretty well, but he's such garbage. They've been a terrible defense against the pass all year. I think I would play Marquise Lee, too, in a deeper league. Jordan Matthews didn't have the type of bounce back I was hoping.
Because he has the butt fumble thrown on the football. He started wearing a headband, too, and now he realized it made him play bad.
Actually, Riley Cooper had a big week.
He's a racist.
Macklin did okay. Jordan Matthews, it's been too long since he showed something. I'm not going to trust him next week either.
Nope.
Josh Gordon, I'm not going to trust him next week. He did have 4 catches for 45 yards, only 8 fantasy points. That's not what you want.
See, I don't know. I might think that Gordon played better. He's got Bobby Hoyer in there now. Finally a quarterback that can actually throw the football.
Do you think it's 100% sure that Bobby Hoyer's playing? Johnny Manziel actually got hurt in the game.
Yeah, Johnny Manziel has a tummy ache, so he can't go in.
Speaking of tummy
His
aches,
mommy's going to make him
Lynch,
some Campbell's soup.
Marshawn Lynch missed his first drive because of a tummy ache.
He ate too many Skittles.
Josh Gordon at Baltimore next week. It is a good matchup.
See?
If Johnny
That's
Manziel...
it. Josh Gordon is Jim's sleeper of the week. You heard it right here. Bobby Hoyer starts. He can actually see over the line when he's throwing, and he actually knows to throw it to the guy in the same uniform. So you put 2 and 2 together, and Gordon actually catches some passes, and the Browns win the game, and the Ravens miss the playoffs. Boom.
Mike Evans versus New Orleans next week. you have to play him. He didn't have a big week this week, but still, he's been a beast pretty much all season long.
Dude's huge, and he runs the 40 in like 2.8 seconds.
Now, how about Charles Johnson from Minnesota? I really like this guy. He finally had a down game, only his second over the past 6 weeks. He has a great matchup next week versus Chicago. He had 6 for 87 against them in Week 11. I'm going to play this guy just because I like him, and he's been playing pretty well recently, but he finally did have a down game at Miami.
Am I the only one who thinks he looks eerily similar to Chad Johnson? How old is this guy? We need to check that out and let the fans know. I think he's one of his long-lost love childs.
This guy's crazy looking, to tell you the truth.
Tell you, he looks like Chad Johnson. Does he have gold teeth?
I think he does.
See? I knew it. I should be an investigative reporter or something.
All right, one more wide receiver just to make you happy.
Oh,
Eric
here
Decker.
he is. Decker the halls with bells of holly.
2 catches, 21 yards, but he's been so consistent this season. Yeah, he's had a down game here and there, obviously.
He's distracted. Christmas time's here. He can't handle it.
He goes at Miami next week. He only had 2 catches for 18 yards against them in Week 13. Would you play him?
What's his matchup?
At Miami.
Do it. Miami's garbage. Except for they won a game on a defensive play today, so I shouldn't say their defense is garbage. But block you, Miami. You're garbage.
Oh, they let up, 35 points, too.
Teddy Bridgewater,
I
your
do
boy.
like Eric Decker next week. He hasn't had 2 down games in a row all season long, so why not expect a bounce back from him here?
He's my boy. Kenny Britt's out. Eric Decker the halls is in.
Zach Ertz, 15 receptions for 115 yards after Mark Sanchez not looking his way since he became starting quarterback. So what are you going to do with him next week?
I bet you he put a headband in Sanchez's locker in between games last week. Yeah, a brand new pink headband. So, Sanchez just felt bad, and he thought he'd throw him a couple passes.
You targeted him 18 times.
Maybe he just got confused and thought he was his only receiver. We both know Mark's not that smart.
Yeah, I'm not going to trust Zach Ertz next week.
Not a chance. He's been wildly inconsistent all year, so there's no reason to trust him in your championship game.
How about Jason Witten? He had a big game. 7 catches, 90 yards, and a touchdown at Washington next week, who Zach Ertz had those 15 catches against.
Washington's not too good against tight ends. They're a little soft in the middle of the defense. Tony Romo's playing a lot better in December this year than he has in the past. So if I got him, he's probably your best tight end. I'd start him.
I definitely would too. How about Jordan Cameron, though? He has 3 catches, 88 yards, and a touchdown this week.
Big week this week? I don't know. I don't see him doing it back-to-back weeks. He's another inconsistent player all year long. He's been hurt a lot of the year. Their quarterback situation's up in the air. He's a scary play.
Even with Bobby Hoyer, huh?
Yeah, I see Bubby's going to throw it to Josh Gordon, so he can't throw it to 2 people. It's too hard for him. You don't get a nickname like Bubby on your intelligence.
I'm guessing you would start Heath Miller next week.
I mean, I love the dude, and I'd probably start him, but that's why I don't play fantasy football, because
Yeah.
I lose all the time.
Well,
If
listen,
he's your best tight end, he isn't playing terrible this year, but I don't know. He's probably around 15 to 20th in the league in tight ends, I'd say.
He might even be a little better than that. But, yeah, he's been very inconsistent all season long. Just 5 double-digit fantasy performances now, but he does have 4 in his last 5 games.
4 PPRs?
4 PPRs.
Please believe.
He did score against Cincinnati in Week 14, but it was his only catch, and he only had 1 yard. But he did have a 2-point conversion in that game, too.
He would have scored today, but he dropped that pass.
Yeah, so he's looking a lot better recently versus Cincinnati. I don't mind that play much because they're better at stopping the wide receivers than they are the tight end. So he could be a decent sleeper next week.
I love Heath.
All right, well, Kobe Fleener, another not that great of a game. It's mostly because the Colts offense has looked like crap the past 2 weeks. But again, at Tennessee next week, I think Kobe Fleener has a bounce-back week, and he could be a top 5 tight end.
I seen Allen drop a couple passes today, so maybe they go Fleener's way a little bit more next week. Well, thanks, fans, for joining us for our fantasy wrap-up. Probably got one more week of fantasy after this left. If you guys are in your championship game, good luck. If you already won your championship, word up. If you lost your championship, yikes.